Last time on Professor Thorky, Aaron, being a complete idiot, thought it would be a good idea to actually review all the 60 plus new comics that Marvel would be putting out between now and February. He only did the first month of October and it nearly killed him. Now he moves on to November, in which there are twice as many books to talk about. Will he succeed? No! I'm exhausted from this! But I made you guys a promise, so I'm gonna do it anyways. Let's get on with it! November! Hi everybody, it's me, getting pumped, Aaron, Professor Thorgy, your guide to all things geeky, here to talk again about all the new Marvel books that are coming out, and today we're doing November, in which there are twice as many books that came out last month. Oh boy! This is going to be a doozy. I'm going to try and make this as quick as possible, because the last episode was an hour long. I ain't doing a 2-hour long episode. So, alright, let's get into it. Before I begin though, I would just like to apologize to you guys because I spent the whole day preparing for this, writing down my thoughts on every single one of these books, getting everything ready to record, and then when it was finally time to record, the heat in my building decided that'd be the perfect time to kick in. So if you guys are hearing a little hissing noise, like that, I apologize for that. Sorry about it, there's nothing I can do about it. But hey, if it makes you feel any better, the heat is on in my building and I don't know how to turn it off, so in about 20 minutes we're going to have a way bigger problem than just a sound in the background, like me about to pass out. But hey, I guess that's just more inspiration for me to get this over with quickly. So let's begin. I am starting on the first week of November, and the first book I want to talk about is Deadpool. Now, I work in a comic book store, and anybody who works in a comic book store has very mixed feelings about Deadpool, okay? I know that he's beloved by everyone. People love this guy all over, they can't wait for his movie, they enjoy his books, they think he's hilarious. However, if you work in a comic book store, he is one of the most annoying things in the world to you, and I'll tell you why. He is annoying to you for the same reason why people who work at McDonald's don't want to eat a freaking cheeseburger when they get home, okay? Because he is the most demanded character I have seen out of anybody at the moment. He might even be more demanded than Batman, okay? I have so many people coming into my store asking for Deadpool. He is like the #1 book that new readers come into, and don't get me wrong, I love new readers. I encourage new readers, I welcome you all, but oh my god, do you all have to read Deadpool? Seriously, and the fact that so many kids come in asking for this guy, even when Marvel slaps a giant freaking sticker on the front of the book that says, "Not for kids," kids still come in and get it, and it's not like going into the game store where the people there are legally required to go, okay, parents, I have to check IDs here, and I just have to let you know what's in here. Anybody can come into any comic book store, and as long as it's not officially porn, they can just buy it. There's no age restrictions on any of these things, and no way to enforce any of it. So, when I see kids who can barely talk, I kid you not, that young, coming in, wanting the guy whose superpower is he shoots people a lot and then heals back from being cut in half, and they ask for that guy, yeah, I get a little annoyed with the character. But, I gotta admit, his new book is actually pretty darn good. In the new Deadpool series, he's actually become a superstar, and it's being written by Jerry Dugan, who is one of my main guys at Marvel. I love that guy. And it's being written by him, and the whole premise of this is that Deadpool is such a huge celebrity now. People love him, people are lining up at his gift shop to get his stuff. I know that was Jerry Dugan's way of just leaning in and winking to all us comic book vendors and going, I know what it's like for you guys, I know that he is everywhere, and I kind of apologize for that. So, hey man, I kind of gotta tip my hat to you guys and say thank you for that. I know exactly what you're doing, I see what you did there. So because Deadpool has become so famous, he has now started franchising himself. He has actually bought up a bunch of Marvel's D-list mercenary characters, and he is now having them all dress up like Deadpool, and he's sending them out on these jobs. And it is kind of an A-Team ripoff. In fact, one of the issues actually started off with a parody of the A-Team opening, and I'm not gonna lie, I love that so much. And I love that it's not total goofy, off-the-wall jokiness. I love that this is a bit more grounded and it's a bit more witty. I've actually spoken with Jerry Dugan before and talked to him. that dude is a big sitcom fan. In fact, he is a huge fan of Seinfeld, and I was reading this and I was like, this is kind of the Seinfeld of Deadpool. So, hey man, if you have never been a Deadpool fan before, this is probably the best access point you're ever going to have, because I read this and I was like, this is not the stuff that I hated about Deadpool, and it's a lot of stuff that I actually liked about Deadpool. And at the end of issue 2, there was actually kind of a big reveal that I did not see coming, and it was some legit drama in there. So, yeah man, I cannot believe I'm saying this, but Deadpool is a hit. Next up, speaking about stuff that I was not expecting to really enjoy, but CM Punk's Drax. First issue of it was a lot of fun, I gotta admit. It is not the one-dimensional Drax that I was totally expecting. In fact, it actually was a little bit closer to the old Drax from the Adamant Landing Guardians of the Galaxy that I always loved, in which back in that day it was like, no, I'm actually very intelligent, it's just I dedicate all of my skills and talent to murdering Thanos. The book opens up with the team finishing a mission, and then they all split up and go their separate ways, and Drax is just there like, alright, I'll go and hang out with you guys. Like, no, we're good over here. Well, I'll go and hang out with you guys. No, it's just my time over here, just me and myself. And then you kind of feel bad for Drax for a second, because it's very clear the rest of the team doesn't really like him, and he just sits there for a moment and goes, well, guess I'll go kill Thanos. And I was like, oh yeah, that was his mission in life. His one goal in life was to kill Thanos. So seeing him kind of being like, yep, guess if I'm not in the Guardians, it's what I do. And from there, it's just kind of balls to the wall crazy, but it's actually kind of well written crazy. Like, there's a scene in which he is in just this clunker of a spaceship flying out into space, and these pirates are about to rob him, and he's just yelling like, come on, it is I, Drax the Destroyer, I will take you all down. And then you just see the pirate ship, and they're just like, this ship is like trash. Why do we even care about this? And then they just turn and walk away, and he's like, aha, another victory. I'm like, that is actually kind of a well-written joke, I gotta give him that. So, yeah. I still want to wait and see where it's going, but just judging issue 1, I'm going to say it's a hit. Alright, next up, Extraordinary X-Men. Hoo boy, alright. It's time that we get a little bit somber here. Time to bring down the happy a little bit. It shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone at this point that Disney has been telling Marvel that they don't really want them to talk about the X-Men too much. They kind of want to push all their mutant characters to the background because Disney doesn't own the rights to that. And you might be saying, it's like, well then how come Deadpool's getting so much attention? Well, because Deadpool sells. Deadpool sells t-shirts, he sells trades, he sells toys. The X-Men sell single comics. They don't really sell trades and shirts and all that stuff anymore. So Disney's fine with making the money off the toys on Deadpool. Kind of like what's happening in the actual Deadpool series. But when it comes to the X-Men, they're like, oh, can they only bring in money from the comics? That's actually not that much money. So push them to the side for now. So in this new Extraordinary X-Men, the Terrigen Cloud that was created to form all the new Inhumans, turns out it is actually poisonous to mutants and has actually sterilized them, and it's making it so that no new mutants can be born, and a lot of the old mutants are actually dying off of this terrible disease called Mpox. And there's also something that happened during the 6-month time skip in between Secret Wars and now that Cyclops did that has made everyone hate mutants more than ever. And also something happened to Cyclops that I will not go into spoiler territory on. But I'm just going to tell you right now, they never say what Cyclops actually did. It is still a mystery what Cyclops actually did. And that got a little bit frustrating because they kept referencing it every freaking page. But they also kept referencing every single page is that there will never be any more new mutants. And a lot of people have criticized this because they're saying, well, this is exactly like House of M. We already saw this. This is exactly what happened in House of M. Yeah, except here's the thing. That was a storyline. This is for real. This is the higher-ups in the real world, outside of the comic book world, coming in and telling Marvel, yeah, no more mutants. It doesn't matter if Scarlet Witch says it. Scarlet Witch is a character. They can write that and change that whenever they want. When that mouse upstairs comes down, though, and goes, no more mutants, that actually is legit. So, I gotta admit, I was getting super depressed reading this book. This was such a downer because every single time that they said in this book, there will never be any more New Mutants, they bolded it. Those letters were always in bold, and I could tell it was basically the Disney guys kind of turning at us going, it's like, God, really? Oh my, which, hey man, it's business. I think it's crappy business. I think that you should be above that and realize that the books actually will not publicize and promote the movies all that much. I mean, if that were true, then the Iron Man film would have flopped. But, yeah, man, come on, you can be better than that. But still, at the same time, it is not Marvel's fault. Their boss is telling them to do this, so I'm not gonna blame Marvel. Let's just get it out of our head and judge the book for itself. But, yeah, man, I can't lie. That was depressing. It really was. It was such a downer reading this. And looking at like everything that's being said with it, I will say this though, it's a pretty good end of Mutants storyline. Like, Jeff Lemire actually does make you read this and go, oh my god, this really is the end of the Mutants. Like, he knew how to make it seem legit. Aside from that though, it's just okay. Like, nothing really won me over in this so far. But I will also say this, Jeff Lemire tends to take his time on these Marvel books. Like his Hawkeye series that he wrote. I picked up the first issue, I was like, this is okay. Picked up the second issue, I was like, this is okay. By the time I got to issue 6 though, I was like, oh shoot, it's going somewhere and this is actually really good. It took him a while to build up steam. And I was reading this like, it's probably going to be the same thing. It's probably going to once again take him some time to build up on this. It wasn't bad, wasn't really great. I'm just going to have this be a wait and see at the moment.
Poop.
Next up, Hercules. Now, I talked about this briefly when they announced it, and I said, I don't know how I'm gonna feel about this, because it was Dan Abnett writing it, and Dan Abnett and Landing were great on Guardians of the Galaxy, but then they broke up, and both of them have just been okay since then. So I was like, I don't know about this one. This might be my favorite pleasant surprise of the relaunch. This is not the best book. It certainly is not the best book. I will get to the best book later in this video, but it is not the best book. However, it might be my personal favorite. I cannot believe how much fun I had with this book. You could actually teach a class on the first 4 pages of this book on how to introduce a character. Because one of the things that I love so much about this is that in just the first 4 or 5 pages, you get the character, his personality, the premise, his setting, his supporting cast. You get every piece of information that you need. And I gotta say, I think that they captured Hercules so well because they do make him the big, braggadocious, and fun-loving adventurer. But at the same time, they also had him come in and kind of go, yeah, I've also kind of matured. I've realized I had to clean up my act a little bit and I had to kind of get with the times. I had to realize just punching stuff doesn't always equal the answer. Like, he actually uses technology now because he's like, hey man, I had to learn it. I'm in the 21st century now. What else am I gonna do? And I gotta say, the whole premise of why he's a hero is great. He actually has business cards made up that he put all around the city of, hey man, I'll take care of whatever job you need, and whoever hires him just has to give him something in return because he is a demigod. You have to pay some kind of a tribute. And I absolutely love that in the first issue, these 2 little kids go and ask him for help. Anytime that little kids are asking a hero for help and the hero helps them out, that is one of my emotional switches. Just boop, ah, and they do that in here. But when the kids hire him, they're like, so do we have to give you something? He's like, well, I guess so. I am a demigod after all. And he's like, well, all I have are my Yu-Gi-Oh cards. And he just hands him a card and he goes, ah, a sea monster. I do like sea monsters. And then he takes it and does the job. And I'm like, that is awesome. I love that so much. But it is not nearly as good as the rest of his supporting cast in here. His supporting cast is made up of his landlady, who hates him and basically is like, dude, just send the kids on their way. You're just going to mess up their lives. Don't get involved in this. She is just one of those characters who has seen enough to know how Herc is going to behave. She is a great character to have in there. But my favorite addition to this cast is that there is another demigod in here, Gilgamesh. And Gilgamesh is just crashing on Herc's couch until he gets his life together. Seriously, he is a demigod and they come in and he's just in a hoodie and sweatpants and he's out of shape and he just hasn't shaved. and he's just hanging out on the couch. And Herc is just like, ah yes, 'tis Gilgamesh, my old friend. He is crashing on my couch until he figures his life out. And I'm like, how are you this clever? This book is so good. I had so much fun with it. Jeez, this is a big hit for me. Next up, Howard the Duck. It's still Howard the Duck. Were you reading Howard the Duck before this relaunch? Keep reading it then. Were you not? Then who cares? I like Howard the Duck. I actually think it is pretty clever. I think it is pretty fun. I enjoy his supporting cast. I think that Chip Zdarsky gets really nuts in all the right places on this book. But I will say, Marvel now actually has a lot of comedy books. Like with this relaunch, there are actually a lot of really funny books in Marvel. And honestly, I think Howard might kind of be at the bottom end of that spectrum, so I'm still going to give this a hit. It's just a low hit. It's kind of close to wait and see, but, you know, seeing Howard just being a very relatable curmudgeon and just being like, listen, I'm so tired of having to fight superhero battles, something about that pushed it up into the low hit for me. Alright, this next one is kind of hard for me to talk about, but let's get it over with. Nova. Now, I was not expecting to like the last Nova series because it started off being written by Jeff Loeb. I love the last Nova series. That book, in its 30-some-odd issue run, had 3 writers on, and every single time that a new writer got on there, I was like, they're about to screw it up. They're about to screw up this great thing, and they didn't. Every single one of them knocked it out of the park. In fact, the last writer on there wrote the most issues out of it, and that was Jerry Dugan, who, if you remember from earlier in the issue, I said was one of my guys at Marvel. This was the book that made me go, this is my guy at Marvel. I loved his Nova. In fact, if you want a story that is just about a kid learning to grow up and mature and learning how to be a hero and learning to face impossible odds and finding a way around it, all with a great sense of humor, you need to read Jerry Dugan's Nova. It was so good. In fact, I'll just make it simple for you. Are you liking Miss Marvel? Read Nova as well. Read Jerry Dugan's Nova. It was so good. In fact, I am a massive Spider-Man fan. That is my go-to hero. That is the guy who I grew up loving. As I was reading Jerry Dugan's Nova, I got those same feelings that I got when I was a kid reading Spider-Man. Like, you could almost follow like a beat-for-beat progression of that character and the way that both those characters matured and learned to grow up. And I actually got to speak with Jerry Dugan at a couple of conventions, and he flat out admitted, oh yeah, I took huge inspiration from that. I was trying to create the same thing. In fact, during the Axis event, when Nova fought the reverse evil Hulk, and it was just an impossible enemy to beat, that reminded me of the classic Spider-Man Nothing Stops the Juggernaut storyline, which is one of my favorite comic book storylines of all time. And it had a very similar payoff, and I mean, it gave me those same emotions. Man, that last Nova series was so good. I read this one going, please let it be great, because so many people are checking out these new Marvel books, so this would be the perfect time to finally get in a huge audience, because the last Nova series, it had an okay sized audience, but never was the big hit that it needed to be. It was always just above that cancellation line. Like, it was always doing just well enough that it could keep going, but there was always that fear in the back of your mind of, oh shoot, if a few more people drop off, it might not be around anymore. So I was really hoping that this new Nova series could just knock it out of the park again and it would get in a huge audience. This new Nova series, it's not bad. It is not bad because it's not anything. And in a way that's kind of worse. The first issue of this new Nova series, nothing happens. And I mean that honestly. The entire first issue is Sam, the kid Nova, at school. And then he goes out and hangs out with his friends. And then he goes and he fights alongside his dad being a hero. And that's pretty much it. This really was just a day in the life of Sam Alexander. That's all that this was. There is no kind of a story in here at all, really. The only kind of a hint of a story at all comes in the very last panel. That is not enough to get people interested in this book. And the whole idea of this book was, okay, it's his dad who was a former Nova, now he's a Nova again, and he's teaming up with his son and teaching his son how to be Nova. You don't really get any kind of a sense of that. And as far as, you know, some kind of a big space adventure, which was the whole idea of Nova and the big interest in it, all they really do with their powers in that issue is they put out a fire. That's it. Not a fire started by some big supervillain, not fire started by some invading alien race, just hey man, they go into a house that didn't have anybody inside to rescue, and they just put out fire. That's it. Yeah, man. Listen, I will say this. I don't want to be too negative on it. I will say this. I think he gets the voice. I think the writer of this new series gets the voice of Sam Alexander well. I do believe that. I think that he actually does capture this character pretty well. Just, there needs to be a story. There was nothing to do with this character. He captured the voice, but that doesn't mean anything if he's not doing anything. Yeah, I hate saying this so much, but I gotta give this one a miss. And this one hurts because Nova needed to be a hit. Okay, last book of the first week of November is Vision. Vision is quirky as hell. Holy cow. You want to talk about Marvel now being totally all new, all different? The idea of this series is that Vision has decided, you know what, man? I really need a family. I miss having a family. That was something I always wanted. So I'm just going to settle down in the suburbs, get a 9-to-5 job, and actually build a family. He actually builds a wife and builds 2 little kids, and the wife has the brain pattern of a mystery character. We don't know who it is. And the kids have the combined brain patterns of both of them, and it is not really a spoiler to say something isn't right with them. Like, I was expecting this to be like some weird quirky family dynamic thing. It's not. By like the 3rd page, you read it and you're just like, something is wrong here. And the reason why you know that is because there is a narrator throughout this entire book. And that narrator, he kind of reminds me of that guy from the Stanley Parable. Did you ever play the Stanley Parable? Here's 5 seconds of that narrator from the Stanley Parable.
Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on the keyboard.
Yeah, it is just like that. You can picture that guy's voice reading this along as he tells you the whole story, and that voice is captured incredibly well. So well. And the mystery behind what is going on, and just seeing like all the ominous hints of things to come are just stunning. Like, you can't read that and not be interested in what's going to happen. The only downside, because I know a lot of people who said this book is perfect, I had one problem with it, which is that it is a long, hard trudge to get through. This book, I'm not saying it doesn't flow, because it's not trying to be a quick read, it's not trying to be a smooth read, it is trying to be heavy. It is trying to make every page last. And indeed it does. Because I'm not gonna lie to you, just reading that first issue, it kind of wore me out. I didn't really want to read anything else after that because I was like, oh my god, this feels like I just read 3 issues. But instead it's just one regular sized book. They didn't even add extra pages to this. So yeah, I'm definitely giving this a hit. It is indeed a hit. I'm just hoping it kind of smooths it out a little bit, but God, man, this thing is probably only going to last for 12 issues, and I think that he probably has a great 12-issue storyline lined up for this, so check it out now. Okay, we are finally on week 2, and kicking it all off is the book that they started all this with. The book that they started this entire relaunch with by advertising it 6 months in advance. I am, of course, talking about all new, all different Avengers. Even after all this time, I still always almost say X-Men whenever I want to say that. Man, Marvel, you were just trying to phase those X-Men out, aren't you? Okay, but let's ignore that right now. Let's talk about happy things. All new, all different Avengers. God, I almost said X-Men again. Okay, All New, All Different Avengers is a book that I have been super excited about because I am an old school Avengers fan. I've been a fan of that team for a long time. And the past 10 years have been kind of rough on me. Because first you had Bendis come in there and literally just kill off the entire last team and everything that they stood for in order to turn them into a street level team. And then you had Hickman come in there, and Hickman is talented, he knows what he's writing, but he likes to write crazy sci-fi fantasy outer space mumbo jumbo, and again, not exactly what the Avengers are supposed to be. So, even though this team is indeed all new and all different, it is a team of superheroes coming together and being written by Mark Waid, a guy who knows superheroes. He's the one guy who, yeah, he's tried different things, but when it comes to writing superheroes, he's never gone in and gone, okay, yeah, I'm going to completely do everything on its head and just change everything about them, because that's what I'm feeling like this week. No, when he is assigned to write a superhero, he comes in and goes, oh, okay, I'm going to write superheroes, and I'm gonna do it well. And I like this one. This so far has been the best #1 issue of a mainstream Avengers book that I've seen in a long time. And when I say mainstream Avengers book, I don't mean New Avengers, Uncanny Avengers, Avengers AI, or all those other side Avengers teams. No, this is the main Avengers team. Okay, I'm going to stop myself right now and just say, for anybody out there who is new to comics, and is especially new to Marvel Comics, I apologize right now because I fully understand how bat poop crazy this all sounds, but yes, there are multiple Avengers teams, but only one of them is the main Avengers team. It's complicated. Listen, I don't even know if I can explain it to you guys, but just go with me on this one. So this is the main Avengers team right now, and this is an Avengers-ass book right here, okay? This felt like Avengers to me. I'm not saying it was perfect, but I am saying that I went in there and read this and went, oh my gosh, on a day unlike any other, a group of superheroes gathered together, and they were each acting like themselves, but also like superheroes, okay? That's kind of all I want, alright? And I will say that we have wanted this book for 6 months. We've been getting told about for that long, and at the end of the first issue, only 3 characters have actually met each other so far out of 7. So, I'm not gonna lie, I kinda wish that a couple more characters had been introduced so far when we have known this book was coming for 6 months, but it's still pretty darn good. It is. I liked it. The art is great. I love the character interactions. The team looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. I dig the villain. The villain is just a really big, powerful dude who wants to take over the world by collecting these 3 mythical items that will give him unlimited power. Dude, you don't need more than that for the first issue of an Avengers book, okay? You just need that big threat, and that is fine. And I am glad that we have a writer who realizes that's all you really need for issue 1, alright? There was also a backup story in there that was the first encounter between Nova and Miss Marvel, and I found it adorable. I did. I found that to just be cute as buttons. It was these 2 kids, and they both are just nervous about interacting with each other for the first time, and because they're nervous about, they just keep coming off like jerks to one another, and I found the internal dialogue to be perfect. So yeah, I gotta say, I really like this first issue. I wish that they had put a little bit more in there, but it was good, so I'm going to give it a hit. Next up, all new Hawkeye. It's still being done by the same creative team that was doing the last Hawkeye book. Listen, I already mentioned in this video, Jeff Lemire with these superhero books, he takes a little while to get ramped up. And his first couple issues on Hawkeye were okay, but towards the end of that last series, they were actually getting pretty darn good. And this is just a straight up continuation of that last one. Like, seriously, there's no reason this should even be a #1. And I was reading it like, yeah, this is a continuation of how good it was at the end of it. This is still really good. Basically, the story is that Kate and Clint, they went into a Hydra base and they found a couple of kids who were being experimented on and being turned into human bombs, and Kate was like, we gotta help these kids. So she took the kids back to Clint's apartment in Brooklyn, and then it turns out that these kids were just killing people and making them blow up, even though they couldn't control it. It wasn't their fault. They were just kids. They didn't understand. And Kate was like, no, we can help them. And Clint was like, they're murdering people. Enough with this. And first thing that I just gotta say is that, listen, I'm not gonna go into Matt Fraction's run on Hawkeye. There were so many superb things about that, so many great things about it. But as an old school Hawkeye fan, towards the end of it, that series really frustrated me because Clint was just wrong about everything and just a complete mess of a human being, and just such a screw up that I couldn't even look at him and see how he could function. Whereas Kate, in the beginning of the series, was upbeat and she was positive, and she actually did have a bright outlook, but at the same time she was very real, and also she was kind of perfect in comparison to Clint, and that was a great balance. But at the same time she was still fresh, she was still new to the job, and she still had some stuff to learn, whereas towards the end of his run she was basically the Terminator and unstoppable. So I gotta say, I was kind of happy at the end of Jeff Lemire's last Hawkeye run when Clint just sat her down and went, listen, this is the way things happen, okay? You can't help them right now. They're just going to murder people. We have to get them into hands of someone else. I was kind of glad to see him sit her down and go, listen, I've been in this way longer than you. Listen to me. So, at the beginning of this storyline, it's actually kind of cool because in this new Hawkeye book, there's two stories going on. One that is set in the present, which is the relationship between Clint and Kate breaking up because Kate's like, yeah, we handed them all over to the wrong people. I do not feel good about that, and it kind of sickens me that you feel good about that, which she has a point. She does definitely have a point about that. But at the same time, he kind of has a point that they were killing people. That's what I love about what Jeff Lemire is doing with them. They're both kind of equally screwed up, but with good hearts in the right places doing the wrong things. I think that he's handling that pretty well. But the other story that this is telling is in the future, like 30 years in the future, in which Kate has found Clint, they haven't spoken to each other in all this time, and she comes back and she just goes, listen, those kids are back, and they're being used as weapons, and we're the ones who abandoned them. It's our responsibility, we have to get them back. I think that's a pretty darn good story, okay? And it's being handled really well, the art looks great, I love that both the future art and the present art have different styles to it, and also with having two artists work on the book, it means it can actually come out on time. So yeah, man, if you have not been checking out Hawkeye, honestly, it's kind of weird to jump in on it now because, like I said, it's right in the middle of a storyline, but I am still going to give it a hit. If you were reading the previous Hawkeye series and you're like, oh man, I don't know if this new storyline's still going to be good, it's still pretty darn good. So there you go, hit. Okay, let's keep going with all new things. All new Wolverine. Okay, this is another one of the new legacy books that Marvel has put out in which a new character takes over the mantle of a previous character, and X-23 is now the new Wolverine. And I gotta say, one of the things that I said I wanted to see in the all new, all different Marvel is I want these books to actually feel all new and all different. And this does not feel like Laura is just coming in and going, well, I'm gonna do my best Wolverine impersonation. No! She is really redefining what it means to be Wolverine. This is not a Wolverine story, this is an X-23 story. She's just calling herself Wolverine in order to honor Logan, and I'm cool with that. There's actually a really touching flashback in the first issue in which is Wolverine going, listen, we were both raised to be weapons, and I went down this path. You don't have to. You can be better than that. You can change it. And so this is a Wolverine who does not want to kill. And I know a lot of people out there are like, oh, come on, man. Wolverine's got to. He stabs people, berserker rage and all that. Hey, man, all new, all different. This is kind of what I was saying. I want books that feel different. And Wolverine, he was around for a while. We had his stories. And he's a great character. He's one of the best comic book characters that ever existed. But it kind of feels refreshing to have someone in there who's new, who actually has a new look at what it means to be Wolverine. I am enjoying this series, and Tom Taylor is writing some great dialogue in there. The relationship between Laura and Angel is actually handled really well. I won't spoil who the antagonists are, but I kind of really dig them, and I think that Laura handles them very well in the second issue. This is absolutely a hit. I am really digging this. This is one of my favorites from this month. Now, there have been a lot of surprises for me so far in the all-new, all-different Marvel, but perhaps none more surprising than the next book I'm going to talk about, Carnage. Now, in the video in which I was talking about the previews that we got for all these new books, I said Carnage was probably the book I was least looking forward to, simply because, no offense to the writer, but he's been around for a long time, and it's rare that a writer who has been around as long as he has still can kind of keep up with the new generation. I know that sounds almost offensive, but we've seen it happen numerous times. And also, I just don't care about Carnage. Listen, I know he has a huge fan base. I work in a comic book store, for God's sakes. People come in all the time asking for Carnage books, alright? I fully get that he has a huge, beloved fan base out there. he just doesn't do it for me, really. You know, it's just not my kind of character, alright? However, I read this, and you know what is my kind of story? Horror. I dig a good horror comic. And I love that this series did not go in and go, okay, well, what kind of a story would Carnage tell? What kind of a story would we tell with Carnage as the protagonist? Because Carnage is not the protagonist of this series. He is indeed the antagonist, and they are flat out just making this a horror series. They set up a giant trap for Carnage, it goes awry, and then there's a cave-in at this mine where they set the trap, and now all these soldiers are trapped there in these mines with Carnage just roaming around. It's a horror series. It is flat out. There's even a jump scare in there. Like, you can tell from just the way the panels are laid out that they were going, okay, if this was a movie, this is where the jump scare would be. And listen, it didn't really scare me, but I could still appreciate what they were going for because I could look at it and go, well, if this was a movie, that would have gotten me. Yeah, this is totally set up like it's supposed to be a horror film, and I love a good horror film. In fact, I know Marvel doesn't make animated films anymore for their stuff, which is kind of a shame, guys, because have you seen DC? They're doing it. You can do it too, come on. But if they did, I would kind of want them to turn this series into an animated series. I would love to see this horror Carnage series. I can't believe I'm saying any of the words that are coming out of my mouth, but yeah, the writer handles it really well. The art matches the tone very well. Man, again, can't believe I'm saying it, but Carnage, it's a hit. And before I move on, I just have to say that Carnage actually kind of demonstrates one of the things that I am loving right now about the all-new, all-different Marvel, which is tones. There are different tones all over the place in this. Like, yeah, there are the crazy, wacky comedy books with, like, Howard the Duck and Unbeatable Squirrel Girl, and there's the big superhero stuff with, like, all new Avengers, and then there's, like, crazy space stuff, and then there's weird science stuff, and then there's deep street-level drama stuff going on. And then you have a horror book. I can't name the last time that Marvel or DC just had a straight-up horror book out there. Man, you guys are really impressing me. So, again, Carnage, a hit. So, okay, wow, so far, week 2, Marvel is batting 1,000. 4 hits? Man, that's incredible. Let's talk about Illuminati. Okay, I wanted this book to be good. I really did. I really was looking forward to this because, hey, the idea of a bunch of villains coming together and trying to take over the world, that as a series, that sounds like it could be fun. And it's being written by Joshua Williamson, the same guy who over at Image is writing Nailbiter, which is a series all about a town that turns everyone in it into serial killers, and Birthright, which I won't spoil the big twist in Birthright, but if you've been reading Birthright, then you know why I'm excited about him writing Illuminati. It seems like that dude would be a slam dunk on this book, and here's the thing. Issue 1 focuses solely on Titania, or Titania. I've never actually heard it pronounced. I've always said Titania. Anyway, it focuses solely on her, and it's about her deciding she wants to try and turn her life around. And she doesn't want to be a villain anymore. She wants to kind of go straight, but no one will accept her. No one will believe her. No one will give her a job or anything because she is a supervillain. And I thought it was actually kind of cool seeing that angle. I thought it actually was kind of cool seeing that, you know, hey man, this is how hard it is for a supervillain to reform. I kind of wish that they had picked a different character other than Titania, because to me Titania is an a-hole. That is her defining character type, is that she loves just beating the crap out of people and being a supervillain. So seeing her want to reform is kind of like, I don't really buy it. But they did make me buy her struggle, so that's a positive. But the idea of this book is an entire team of supervillains coming together and trying to pull off the greatest heist ever to become the most powerful beings in the world. We don't actually see the team until the very end of the book, and none of them interact with each other, none of them talk. Listen, when the next issue comes out, we are going to see that team dynamic. We are going to see that happen. So I am looking forward to that, and honestly, I kind of feel like I should judge that as the issue 1, but when I have to look at issue 2 like it's issue 1, I feel like issue 1 didn't do its job. So here's the thing, after this month, in all the next month reviews that I do, I will do updates on any of the books that I have already talked about in which my opinion has changed on them, so I will cover issue 2 if my opinion has changed. But I gotta be honest with you, issue 1 did not sell me on this, so I hate saying it, but I'm gonna have to give issue 1 a miss. Next up, The Ultimates. Okay, this might be the #1 book that I was looking forward to in this relaunch because, holy cow, Al Ewing, I love that guy as a writer. The art looked amazing. The cast contains some of my favorite characters right now in the Marvel Universe. They're some of the most powerful characters in the Marvel Universe, taking on the biggest crises in the Marvel Universe. This seems like a slam dunk. I love the idea behind this book. I was so excited for it. And I read it, and there was enough there that it did make me go, okay, this could be great. This could be really good. But it didn't totally sell me on it, and a lot of the big problem with that comes from the fact that there are a bunch of super scientists on this book. And those super scientists are tackling some of the biggest super science problems out there, and Al Ewing, man, I'm talking to you, please hear me out on this. You gotta turn the super science notch down a tab, because I kid you not, I had to read the first 4 pages of this book 3 times to try and understand it. And even then I didn't understand it, but I could at least get to a point in which I was like, alright, I think I have an idea, let's just move on. And yeah, there were some great moments in this first issue, like Black Panther, when he's addressing members of the UN, and they're like, yeah, so are you just trying to work with America so that you can get their resources? And he's like, if I was trying to work with America for that, it would just slow me down. I was like, oh, I love whenever people of Wakanda are badasses. Or there's a fantastic moment of Captain Marvel just being a badass, and the art looks amazing on it. So yeah, there is stuff in here that's like, okay, this is pretty cool. But he is going for such big, crazy sci-fi stuff. And hey, kudos for you for going big, but he's going so big and crazy that it kind of felt jumbled, like I had to keep going back and rereading it, honestly. So yeah, man, from here on out, you need to smooth this out a bit. Like, I understand you want to present huge, crazy stuff, but you can do that a little bit similar. You can spoon feed us your crazy. I know that makes it sound like I want you to dumb the book down, but just don't clutter it as much. That's all I'm saying. So, I am still excited for this book, but it's not a hit. I'm going to have to give it a wait and see.
Poop.
Next up, Web Warriors, which is a series spinning out of the Spider-Verse event in which it is Spider-Men from around the multiverse going to all the alternate realities where Spider-Men were destroyed during Spider-Verse and trying to help out and clean up their messes. Honestly, I love alternate reality stories. I do. I love seeing alternate realities. So this was a lot of fan service, but at the same time, even though I really enjoyed this book, I realized that a lot of the reason why I enjoyed it was simply because of that fan service. Like, when they go to this Egypt theme universe, and I looked at that and went, oh my god, I remember that from the New Warriors! By the way, any chance we get another New Warriors book? I'm just saying, Marvel. I know the last one didn't sell too well, but it was really freaking good. Anyway, ignoring that, getting back to Web Warriors. So yeah, I love seeing all the alternate reality Spider-Man. I love seeing all the alternate reality Spider-Man villains that pop up in here. I think the art is a lot of fun. I think the character interactions are really great. But at the same time, I am saying this solely as a Spider-Man fan who loves to see alternate reality stuff. I could kind of step back from this book and look at it as someone who wasn't a fan of either of those things. And honestly, I don't know if there's anything here that you would enjoy. So this is one of those where if you don't really care about alternate realities or Spider-Man, it's a wait and see, but for the rest of us, it's a hit. So I'll just even that out to a high wait and see.
Poop.
Okay, we're on week 3. I feel like I've been doing this for so long that I need to stop to shave in the middle of this video. But no, okay, let's keep going. Week 3, Black Knight #1. Black Knight #1 is being written by a guy who hasn't really written anything consistently since Weapon X way back in the early 2000s, and I didn't read that book, but most people told me it was just, okay. And I looked at a bunch of the single issues he's done, and they've all kind of been, okay. I think this one was pretty good. I don't think it was too bad. Basically the idea of it is that the Black Knight is trapped in Weird World, and the Black Knight is a character who has had a cursed blade. Whenever the blade tastes blood, it starts to drive the wielder of it crazy, and he can't separate himself from it. And he has been stranded in Weird World. And let me just say, I love that Marvel is keeping Weird World. I love that is going to remain a thing after Secret Wars, because that was such a fun book to read. I love that they are now making this stick around, and I can't wait to read. Man, I've been talking for a long time. I can't wait to read the upcoming Weird World series. So this is honestly just a really cool concept. I love this idea of Black Knight. He's stranded in Weird World, slowly going insane, slowly turning evil, can't find a way off. It's a fun idea, man, and I enjoy his cast of characters. The only thing that I will say, though, that is negative is when you see the whole starting to turn evil thing, it's kind of just thrown in there. It's not very subtly slipped in there like I feel like it should be, and because of that, I'm gonna have to give this one a wait and see, because I can't really judge it just yet until I see the way that that is going to play out in a couple more issues. But still, I will say, it's pretty good. It is not a it's a Can that be the sound that I use for wait and see? Okay, here we go. Mighty Thor #1. I thought Jason Aaron's Thor series and the series before that, Thor God of Thunder, I thought both those were excellent. I think that this guy is handling this book better than I have seen anyone handle Thor in a long time. And we all know that Jane Foster is Thor at this point. Sorry for that spoiler. But we also know that she has cancer and that her being Thor is slowly killing her. And they do explain in this book why that is. And I thought that they handled it incredibly well. In fact, it really feels to me like Jason Aaron researched what it's like to have cancer, that he knew people in his life who went through this, and that this is almost a personal story for him. Because yeah, man, it really puts you in Jane Foster's shoes in this one. It is really touching, but even beyond just the personal side of this story, which that's the thing I gotta point out, in the previous Thor series it was a mystery who Thor was, so we never really got inside her head all that much. In this one, it is 100% Jane's story, and yet it does feel great and personal and deep. But beyond just the personal side of it, the Asgardian side of it, the big, extravagant, glowing city of Asgard and all the magic and mysticism that's around that, that is handled better than I have seen him do it throughout this entire run of his, and he's already been handling it so well. Alright, basically, we all know 6 months have passed since the end of Secret Wars, and when Jane returns to Asgard as the Embassy of Earth, holy cow, so much has changed in those 6 months. It is just shocking. Like, every single page is a revelation of how bad things have gotten, of how insane Odin has gone, of what he has been doing to other people, of who the villains are that are forming against this Thor. Every single page makes you drop your jaw at what is happening. This is hands down one of the best first issues I have read of anything in a long time. If you're one of those people out there who's like, man, I am never going to accept anyone who is Thor aside from my Thor, read this issue. Cause man, this one, I had people in my store who said that they were naysayers, and this book turned them around. Okay, this book, God, it is so good. And it's another one of their $4.99 #1s, which Marvel's been doing a lot of that, which by the way, Marvel, stop that. Stop it. Do not make a book $4.99 unless it needs to be. They have been artificially padding so many of their books out. They're like, oh, here's a 3-page backup story in the back of it. That's worth another $1. No, it's not. However, this one, it is thick with a big freaking fold-out cover, and every single page of it feels like a big, epic part of a story. This is indeed a $4.99 book, okay? It is worth that price. So am I giving this a hit? No. This is the best book I have read in the Marvel relaunch so far. This is above a hit. It's perfect! Okay, next up, the new Miss Marvel. Now, Miss Marvel is a book that did not need to change. It was excellent. This is one of the best new series I've read in a long time, with one of the best new characters I have read about in a long time. It didn't need to change, and honestly, I was really nervous about it changing, because one of the great things about Ms. Marvel is that you're watching this young hero grow and learn and mature as she goes, and it's the story of someone coming up and coming into the role that she is trying to achieve. And after this 6-month time jump, she's already an Avenger. So it feels like, oh man, we're just skipping over some major parts of her life here. But it does feel different. But at the same time, the more things change, the more they stay the same. Because this is still a very down-to-earth, real story of characters and people and of a society. Because that was the other great thing, is that in Ms. Marvel, Jersey City was a character in and of itself. And the new look in this book and the new story that's going on is basically, hey, what happens when Ms. Marvel, Jersey City's appointed hero, now suddenly becomes a bigwig? When she suddenly becomes an Avenger and she becomes famous, and all of a sudden people start coming in and start trying to turn her into a celebrity, and she doesn't want that. And the town doesn't want that. And basically people are trying to use her image to promote stuff that goes against the town. How does she react to that? That's honestly a really smart way to tell this story of what happens when Ms. Marvel becomes too famous too early. I loved it. I thought that G. Willow Wilson, the author, found an amazing way to keep Ms. Marvel the same while showing her in this new role. I was stunned by it. So yeah, this is absolutely a hit. If you have not been reading Ms. Marvel already, for the love of God, get on that book. The only reason why I would not praise this book anymore is because, you know what I just mentioned with Thor about how Marvel is artificially padding out books? Yeah, there is a backup story in this issue. It's cute. It is cute. Didn't need to be there. But still, despite the fact that they threw that in there so they could charge an extra $1, this is still a hit. Next up, Spider-Woman. Okay. Let's just talk about the controversy behind this book, which is that the moment that they revealed that Spider-Woman would be pregnant in this new series, everybody lost their collective fudge. And listen, I love the previous Spider-Woman series. Honestly, it wasn't the best series that Marvel was putting out, but it might be my personal favorite. I mean, after Spider-Verse was over with, and after Greg Land left the book, and the book took its new direction, that only had the direction for one story arc before it had to end for Secret Wars, but I flat out loved what Dennis Hopeless was doing with Jessica Drew. I absolutely loved how he was capturing her curmudgeon-y attitude. I loved how he was having her interact with these loser D-list villains like Porcupine, and I love the very street level feel of it by having her go back to being a detective and having her go, listen, I am done with going to space. Space sucks, okay? I want to have a normal life. I thought that spoke so much to her character. I can't lie, I love that book, okay? And when I saw so many people freak out about her being pregnant in this new series, I listened. I wanted to know why everybody was so upset. I wanted to hear where all the outrage was coming from. And after actually reading this book and reading the way that they treated Jessica being pregnant, I don't care. Not about the book's amazing. I don't care about the people who are hating it, okay? Listen, you're all entitled to your opinion. For God's sakes, I made a channel solely so I could share my opinion. But almost every person I know who has read the book has absolutely loved it. In fact, it's one of the highest rated books from this Marvel relaunch. And so many of the people who have been complaining about it, I haven't heard anything from them ever since it came out. So I don't want to say this, but I kind of get the feeling like most of the people who were complaining did actually pick up the book. Honestly, I cannot tell you how well I think that they handled her pregnancy in here, because Dennis Hopeless wrote this story right after his wife became pregnant, and when you read this story, you can tell he sat down with her and went, tell me as much as you can about this experience, because I want to get this right. Because, like I said, I loved how real the last Spider-Woman series felt, and I loved how real Jessica felt. This carries that on. This honors that. Because this really does feel like Jessica has grown from this pregnancy, because it starts off, the very first page has her going, listen, I always used to hate kids, which was indeed part of her character, but talks about how her growing pregnant has changed her and that. it shows her struggling with having to give up so many things. There is a touching moment in which she has to say goodbye to her motorcycle because she can't ride it when she's pregnant. And seeing the relationship between her and Carol Danvers, her best friend, as they deal with her being pregnant and Carol just trying to support her, God, that was touching. It really was. And at the same time, this book is still hilarious. That's the one thing I forgot to mention, is that this was a book that had an amazing sense of humor, and I always loved it for that. And all that is still there. The human emotions, the interactions, the sense of humor, and just the great artwork. This is still one of my favorite books out of this relaunch. I am loving that despite how much Jessica has changed. Again, she's still the Jess that I loved, and this book is still the book that I love. I cannot recommend this book enough. It is a hit. Okay, we're in the home stretch, which is great because my voice is dying. But next up is Star-Lord. Now, I'll be honest with you guys, I wasn't that big a fan of the previous Legendary Star-Lord series because it just felt like they were trying way too hard to be just like the movie. But this is the new origin story of Peter Quill because they're trying to merge his origin story from the comics with his origin story from the movie, which is understandable because, let's be honest, everybody loved that movie. Everybody wanted to see those characters from that movie, so I understand it. But as I read this, I was like, yeah, okay, it is not trying too hard to be like the movie. It is just that right pinch of that film in here. So I did enjoy the tone, I did enjoy Peter, but we don't actually see Peter in space until the very last page, and honestly it just felt like the book hadn't quite begun just yet. I was enjoying what I was reading, but again, it's one of those books where it's like, I can't quite recommend this to people until I've seen just where they're going to go from here. So for now, I'm just going to give this a wait and see, but like I said previously in this video, as I read more issues of it, if my opinion changes, I will keep you guys updated on it, so make sure to come back for those updates. But for now, wait and see.
Poop.
Next up, Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. Holy cow, yes. I adored this book. There's no other word for it. I adored it. Listen, I think that it is great to have books out there for everyone, and I have to go ahead and applaud Marvel because now they have Unbeatable Squirrel Girl, Miss Marvel, and now Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. So whenever a parent brings their little girl into the store and goes, hey, we want to get her into comics, she wants to read something, what would you recommend? I now have 3 books from Marvel that I can grab and hand to her, okay? They didn't go, hey, let's create one book that little girls can read. No, they created 3. And I'm not saying that you have to be a little girl to enjoy Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. I'm just saying it might strike more of a personal tone with you. But still, I, as a grown-ass man, still thoroughly enjoyed this book for many reasons. One, the character is so great. She is a girl who just loves science. And I'm not talking even like super science, like there's a Neil deGrasse Tyson poster over her bed. Like they are going, no, we want to get kids into science. We want to make kids realize how cool science is. In fact, there was a moment in which her teacher is trying to teach the class the theory of evolution, and she is the only student who isn't participating in it. And so her teacher then goes up to her and says, well, why aren't you participating in the rest of class? And she just goes, because it's not a theory, it's a fact. Evolution happened. This is science. It is not up for debate. And I was like, oh my God, Marvel, I love you. Way to go, standing up for science right there. Excellent, I love it. By the way, if anybody out there knows how to get in touch with Fox News and you would like to tell them that Marvel has a book out there that is saying that evolution definitely happened and that they're preaching the teachings of science, that would be great, because when Marvel took on the racist Border Patrol guys in Captain America, Fox News lost its mind about that, and then the sales of issue 2 of Captain America skyrocketed. So if you want to tell them about Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur and have them go on a rant about that, it might get this one to #1 in the charts. Fingers crossed. But yeah, the character in here is just a ton of fun. I love reading about her. The art is excellent. And listen, I never cared at all about Moon Boy and Devil Dinosaur. But I won't spoil anything, but there is kind of a touching moment between those 2 characters when they pop up in this book. And I went, oh my God, I'm actually feeling things about Moon Boy and Devil Dinosaur here. This book did the impossible. So I gotta say, man, this book was a ton of fun. It was exactly as good as I wanted it to be. So it is definitely another hit. My voice is so close to being gone, but I am almost done. Next up is Silk, number 1. I love the previous Silk series. I think that the writer and artist on that are making a great team, and they are capturing the voice of this character so well, way better than the guy who created her. Oh my god, seriously. I was so worried about this series because of how terribly Dan Slott wrote this character, and yet they have turned her into something great. I love that Cindy Moon, Silk, is just a geek. That's one of my favorite. Jeez, could I have sounded more like a geek with the way that my voice cracked when I said that word? Oh my god, that's how you know that I'm getting tired and I've been talking a lot. But no, I love that Cindy Moon is a geek. In fact, this is really the story of what it's like to be in your, mid to late 20s, or sometimes even in your 30s, and learning what it's like to grow up and going, okay, now I'm getting a job, now I'm learning to pay bills, I'm learning to pay rent. I really love that they're capturing that, and yet they still kind of keep Cindy a kid at heart. I mean, there's a moment in which they are showing the first things that she bought to decorate her apartment with when she bought it, and it's a Majora's Mask figure, and I was like, oh my god. I can't tell you how important it is to me to have a character out there that decorates their room with a Majora's Mask figure. Don't ask me why, but that is very important to me. But the big change that is going on in Silk after the 6-month time jump is that Silk is now a bad guy. Basically, she is now teaming up with the Black Cat in order to try and search for the Goblin Army guys who had kidnapped her brother and trying to find out information about them. And because of that, she is being forced to commit some crimes. I was very nervous about that, but I will say, without spoiling anything, they handled it very well. Also, I totally called it if you saw my preview video. So yeah, if you were reading the previous Silk series, then you are going to love this series, and if you weren't reading the previous Silk series, well then you probably should have, because it was shockingly good. So yes, this is definitely another hit. Damn, Marvel, you are killing it this month. And lastly, thank God, Venom Spaceknight. Now, I know that this is kind of a controversy because some people are like, Eddie Brock will be Venom forever, and a lot of people are like, long live Flash Thompson. I gotta be honest with you, I really liked Eddie Brock as Venom, but I'm in that camp of he had his time, and I'm kind of cool with Flash Thompson now, and I'm kind of even cool with what Bendis did with the whole symbiotes thing. In fact, that's one of the few big changes Bendis has ever made to Marvel Comics that I actually have been okay with. And this is picking up with Venom now in this new role as a quote-unquote Space Knight, as an agent of the cosmos. And what that means is that he says he has been hearing a mysterious voice in his head that has been giving him missions to go out and run, and that is a really cool concept. Here's where the problem comes in. We never see that. This is a total case of telling and not showing, because when this book begins, he is running along, he is on a mission, and he is talking about how he has been receiving these mysterious orders. It would have worked so much better if we had actually seen him getting these orders, if we had seen him trying to process this, even if we had seen him get these orders and then just talk about how he had been getting them for a while. It really feels like this book is a great concept and should be way better, but there are just chunks taken out every now and again. In fact, even with the art sometimes, like there will be times in which Flash Thompson will do something, and then the next panel, it'll be in the middle of the ramifications for that thing. I'm trying to think of the most non-spoiler way of describing this, but basically it'll feel like, shouldn't there have been a panel in between those two showing him getting from point A to point C? Yeah, it just kind of has that feel throughout it all. I do really like the way that Flash is being written. I think that that is handled pretty well. And at the end of issue 1, he is given a sidekick who I think is going to be a hilarious addition to the book. So I really want to like this book. It just kind of feels like it was missing some stuff, that it wasn't quite showing us enough to truly win me over. So I'm going to give this a wait and see, but it is a high wait and see. This was a fun book. Just could have been executed a little bit more smoothly.
Boop.
So there you go. Okay, November is over with, and I'm just going to go ahead and flat out say it. I think this is probably going to be the best month that Marvel has had in this whole relaunch. I know they've still got about 4 more months of this coming up, but there were so many hits this month, I can't even comprehend them having a better month than this. So seriously, if you were waiting to see whether or not this all new, all different Marvel relaunch was going to be a success, this was the month that proved it. Every single month coming up could totally suck, and still November was so good to be like, you know what, this whole relaunch, totally worth it. So yeah, go out there, check out some of these books. I hope that my descriptions and that my reviews actually did help you guys. If they did, then hey, if you wouldn't mind sharing this video around the web, it sure would help me. Also, if you did like these reviews, then make sure to hit that subscribe button. I do fun, geeky stuff on this channel all the time, having to do with comic books, movies, video games, anything from the world of geekery. You can also follow me for more geeky fun on Twitter and Tumblr. In fact, on Tumblr, every single Wednesday I do reviews of all the new books that come out, and there is the address for that right there. And if you want to see the video that I made last week on the October books, it is going to be right there. So, thank you very much, guys. I hope that you come back. I am going to drink a big tall glass of ginger ale and hope I don't lose my voice. Bye, everybody.